It's Tuesday, October 6th, and this is now on HNN.
We have to assume that the president still is contagious.
The president's doctors say he reports no symptoms less than a week after the White House revealed that Mr. Trump has coronavirus. I'm Deborah Alfrone at the White House with more on that and Campaign 2020.
It appears Hawaii Island won't participate in the pre-travel testing program as the state pushes ahead with its plan to bring back tourism.
They continue to be concerned because of the number of virus cases they see on Oahu.
With most colleges now offering online learning, courses can be taken anywhere. I'm Nancy Chen with a look at some of the exotic places students are studying during the pandemic.
These stories plus stocks drop after President Trump calls off stimulus talks. That's coming up on This Is Now.
Chart-topping Eddie Van Halen, known for his innovative and explosive guitar playing, passed away this morning after a long battle with cancer. The guitar virtuoso's blinding speed and control propelled his band Van Halen into one of hard rock's biggest names, a career that was fueled by an unmistakable grinding solo in Michael Jackson's hit Beat It that elevated him to the status of rock god. He was 65.
Hey everyone, Ashley and Jonathan here. Thank you for watching This Is Now. You can find more on that Van Halen story on HNN's digital platforms. Now to our coronavirus coverage. The state health department says 3 more patients with COVID-19 have died, bringing Hawaii's official death toll to 160. DOH is also reporting 83 new cases today. 67 are on Oahu, 14 on the Big Island, and 2 on Maui. Meanwhile, after weeks of disagreement, the White House decided to drop its objections to the FDA's strict coronavirus vaccine guidelines. The debate led to concern that a vaccine would be pushed through before it's proven safe and effective. The decision now means any vaccine authorization will likely be delayed beyond the November election. Here's Skylar Henry.
As the race for a coronavirus vaccine continues, leading health experts attended a virtual conference by Johns Hopkins University and the University of Washington to talk about ensuring the scientific integrity of the vaccines.
We're calling for preserving the sanctity of the science behind their work and for the scientific process to proceed at the speed of integrity and accuracy, not politics.
The meeting comes on the heels of a New York Times report that says the White House is blocking the FDA from implementing strict new federal guidelines for the emergency release of a vaccine. Those enhanced safety guidelines would almost guarantee no vaccine would be approved before Election Day.
Our mission is to deliver approved vaccines to the American people before the end of the year.
At issue is an FDA recommendation calling for at least 2 months of safety follow-up after the completion of the vaccine trial. The White House has consistently given a much faster timeline for when a coronavirus vaccine will be ready. It's an assessment President Trump reiterated when he returned to the White House last night after being hospitalized for the coronavirus.
The vaccines are coming momentarily.
But polls show most Americans are skeptical about a vaccine being ready so quickly. And health officials are concerned if Americans don't trust that it's safe and effective, they won't get it when it's ready. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
New today, Mayor Harry Kim is saying no to reopening tourism to the Big Island. He's making the decision not to participate in the state's pre-travel testing program. That's according to the Star Advertiser. This means anyone who lands on the island is still subject to the 14-day quarantine, even after the pre-travel testing program starts later this month. Mayor Kim said the program is not a risk he is willing to take. Hawaii Island has seen a recent spike in cases. Governor Ige reportedly gave each county a chance to opt out of the state's travel plans yesterday, and Hawaii County was the only one to do so.
The pre-travel testing program is set to start next Thursday, and Governor Ige says he's confident in sticking with the October 15th date.
I have been working with the mayors to identify, what the health metrics would be so that we can drop the inter-island quarantine I do know, and when I talk with residents, especially on the neighbor islands, they continue to be concerned because of the number of virus cases they see on Oahu.
A formal announcement on inter-island travel is expected later this week. Meanwhile, Kauai Mayor Derek Kawakami says the governor rejected his proposal to test travelers after they arrive on the Garden Isle. In a statement, Kawakami said they still intend to use the 15,000 rapid tests they received. He says they're coming up with a plan to use them. There's also a push to require a second test for travelers who arrive on Oahu. Dr. Dara O'Carroll, an emergency medical physician, has teamed up with Honolulu Councilman Tommy Waters on that effort. Here's what he had to say.
Let's start with this. Now, we can all see the benefit of what you're suggesting, but the governor says no. Lieutenant Governor Josh Green says it would kill tourism. Why do you say this is so important?
Well, what you have to look at is that the numbers that our one test pre-travel program is going to catch are completely overstated. Now, all you have to do is look at two very prominent medical journals, the Annals of Internal Medicine, also the New England Journal of Medicine, to state that one test is going to catch 40% of people at best. Add on that many of these people are going to be taking the rapid Abbott test at the airport. The press conference last week said 99% of people will be getting that test. That test has a 10% false negative rate compared to our gold standard PCR test. Now, there's a difference between diagnostic testing, which I agree can catch 80% of people. That's when I think, Steve, if you came into my emergency room and I thought you had this virus, you had symptoms consistent with it, you were close to somebody who might have had it, I agree a test can catch 80% of those people. I've had many people who looked like they had coronavirus and they tested negative. But in the sense of surveillance testing, where we're trying to set up a wall or a fence for keeping infections out of our state, one test is only going to catch 40%. And that's simply due to, and we're seeing it play out on the national scale, that, our President Trump was around a huge amount of people, and all of his close contacts were tested the first, second, and third day. And any test, I don't care how great that test is, in the first 3 days is pretty much 100% useless. So when you put all these statistics together, the one test plan seemed like a great idea back in May and June when it was proposed, and I agree it did, but our state has continued to fail to keep up with the evolving knowledge base of our pandemic. And all I need to do is point to these two prominent journals. And I've sent those along, and I've been speaking about this since August. Right. This is not something new that I've been talking about. You can look to the Civil Beat article I proposed, right, or I wrote in September. Go ahead, you can ask a question, another question.
Yeah, no, and look, and I know you're not being insensitive, because I know you look around and you realize that there's so many other things at play. And you're also looking at the system that they've proposed. You're not satisfied with that. You've also suggested pool testing and maybe some other options. What else could we do? What else should we be looking at?
Sure. So, there's plenty, and I don't know where our state is saying that there's not enough tests to go around. We could send these tests with no longer turnaround to the mainland of 36 hours. That's a day and a half that these residents could spend in their hotel rooms. I do agree, though, that they need to spend a shortened quarantine around 4 to 5 days in their hotel rooms to catch enough people. I mean, just look at the logic of how do we create film bubbles and NBA bubbles. To get into the NBA bubble, someone has to get tested 7 times. I'm not saying we do that, but that's the equivalent of getting infections down to a controllable level. Now, this is an economic argument as well, and that our medical and economic health are now intertwined, and that can our state and our small businesses really sustain another shutdown by November and December? Our small businesses cannot handle that. I know exactly the pains of the tourism industry. My family runs a water sports business out in East Oahu, and they've been decimated. All 15 of their employees have not been back to work since this pandemic began. But to open up in this state, in this way, I understand both sides of the argument, is an economic short burst of economic gain for a long-term economic woe, and probably the darkest winter Hawaii may ever see.
President Trump tweeted he's feeling great on his first full day back at the White House. This after a 4-day hospital stay for coronavirus treatment. Deborah Alfarone is at the White House with with the latest developments.
A senior administration official tells CBS News the White House is exploring options to allow the president to address the nation as soon as today. President Trump's doctor released a memo saying his vital signs are stable and he's reporting no symptoms. White House Communications Director Alyssa Farah on Fox News.
The president's improving dramatically and quickly, but listen, we understand he's not out of the woods. He's continuing to be monitored by his doctor and medical team here.
CBS News has learned that several senior military leaders will quarantine after coming into contact with the Vice Commandant of the Coast Guard, who has tested positive for COVID-19. This includes the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley. The president downplayed the coronavirus as less lethal than the flu in a tweet. Twitter flagged it as, quote, spreading misleading and potentially harmful information. The president also says he's looking forward to participating in next week's presidential debate in Miami, Florida.
The president's intention is to go and participate in the debate in person, and we'll be relying on the world's best medical experts to clear him to do that.
2020 Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden remains on the campaign trail. He's visiting Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to deliver a message of unity. Meanwhile, the 2020 vice presidential contenders continue to test negative ahead of their Wednesday debate. The Commission on Presidential Debates says Mike Pence and Kamala Harris will be more than 12 feet apart with a plexiglass barrier. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, the White House.
The president's actions while infected have many wondering how this will affect the upcoming election. Chelsea Davis spoke with local political leaders.
The presidential election is less than a month away. Here in Hawaii, ballots are being mailed out to registered voters this week. Some say the president's coronavirus diagnosis hurts his campaign, while others say it's helping.
After going through it now, people can see that he had skin in the game, so to speak.
Republican Ewa Beach Representative Bob McDermott says President Trump's COVID-19 infection has spurred momentum among his supporters.
You know, these spontaneous Trump rallies that are popping up. On Ewa Beach, we had over 150 cars last Friday. I've never seen that, ever. And they're spontaneous, so he will do better here than he did last time.
In the 2016 election, 30% of Hawaii voters voted for Trump. Hawaii News Now political analyst Colin Moore doesn't believe there will be much difference this year.
You can't confuse the intensity of the support of a relatively small number of people to the sort of broad support you would need to win a presidential election.
The list of top Washington officials and lawmakers who tested positive for COVID continues to grow. Democratic U.S. Senator Mazie Hirono, who has stage 4 cancer, says so far she's tested negative, but raises concerns about the virus spreading, especially with a critical Supreme Court nomination hearing scheduled next week.
They are risking exposing us to the virus. I think it's unconscionable, but they are hell-bent on doing this. Why? Because I think that they fear they're going to lose this election.
While support from both sides gain traction throughout the nation, views about how the president's health will affect the upcoming election remain split.
To watch the folks on TV to debase it and take it down to just a political level, how's it going to affect Biden or Trump? And the commentators, they're sometimes ruthless and heartless. And this is a real person with a 16-year-old son. And we forget that sometimes.
We're experiencing such intense political polarization that it's almost impossible to change people's mind about this election at this point, even with something as dramatic as the President of the United States getting this disease.
The president's doctor said the first 7 to 10 days are the most critical in determining the extent of the illness. Chelsea Davis, Hawaii News Now.
Stocks dropped suddenly on Wall Street this afternoon after President Trump ordered a stop to negotiations with Democrats over another round of stimulus for the economy. As we all know, it's been punched into recession by shutdowns related to the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, in other business news, Southwest Airlines is calling for some wage concessions to avoid some layoffs in 2021. Howard Dykes reports.
Southwest has not done furloughs, and CEO Gary Kelly wants to avoid furloughs all next year. But to do that, he says he needs wage cuts in place by January. Kelly says he'll reverse wage cuts if Congress ever gets around to passing new aid. The UH Economic Research Organization surveyed landlords owning more than 6,000 Hawaii housing units and say 95% of tenants ordinarily pay rent by the 15th of the month, but in August, only 85% had done so. Regal Theaters will close its U.S. screens Thursday as more movies are pushed to 2021. Regal owns Dole Cannery Theaters, Pearl Highlands, Kapolei Commons, as well as theaters in Hilo, Kona, Kahului, and Kaneohe. Foodland partners with Lanai-based Sensei Farms. Sensei hydroponic greens will be sold in all 32 Foodland locations.
Literally right now, millions of college students are taking classes online, but many are finding very new and unique ways to learn remotely. Nancy Chin explains.
Exercise among the trees, nature walks in the woods, and studying in the fresh air. A company called A Place Beyond has converted this camp into a college campus.
There's going to be weekend backpacking trips. There's going to be whitewater rafting.
Tatiana Wells goes to college in California. Her childhood friend Correa Borba is a sophomore at Columbia University in New York. When the coronavirus pushed their classes online, they decided to come to Arizona's Prescott National Forest for the fall semester. There are 36 students from more than 20 colleges nationwide. All were tested for COVID and have now formed a self-contained environment.
Even though you are kind of contained and in a bubble, you don't feel like restricted.
Students across the country are looking for alternatives to logging on at home. This group of friends left New England to rent a condo in the Rocky Mountains. Hannah Junn and her classmates from Yale found a house in Barbados near the beach.
Why did you have the idea to go someplace to do your fall semester in the first place?
So I thought, why not take this time to go live with a group of friends somewhere, have a different kind of college experience while I can.
This is the first one. We're doing the pilot right now.
Back in Arizona, the co-founder of A Place Beyond is already looking to expand.
We're hoping next spring to do a couple of sites. We're talking to some folks in Colorado.
He believes this model of learning and living could become a popular option for college students even after the pandemic ends. Nancy Chen, CBS News.
I cannot imagine being in school right now. All that distance learning, it would be difficult for me because of my attention span, I can tell you that.
Same.
Yeah.
That looks fun though.
Yeah,
like
it does.
Summer camp.
It's a cool concept, and we know they were trying to do that here, and it didn't work out with a bunch of different logistics and quarantine issues, but it does appear that it's working out there. Let's turn it over to Billy V now with a check of our weather.
Aloha, I'm Billy B, sitting in for Guy Hoggy. Let's go ahead and give you your Tuesday forecast. Let's talk about the waves because there was a lot of people in the lineup for dawn patrol this morning. That's because the waves were 5 to 7 feet over on the south-facing shore. It's a series of swells that are coming through, and advisory level is 8. That's the threshold. So on the town spots, that's just below advisory level, but some head high sets out there. Nice conditions with the light winds too. Water temperature 81, the UV index is 10. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other aspects of the Pacific. First of all, Central Pacific is looking pretty clear. It's the Eastern Pacific where we have one tropical storm, and that would be Marie. Marie's going to come up here to the north, and maybe some of the remnants of this will get into the trade wind flow. So that's one aspect of how Marie will affect our weather. And then the other thing is that it could send us some swell energy, but we won't really see that until probably later on this week into the weekend. Let's also go ahead and tell you that our wind and rain trends, there's not a whole lot of wind out there. So as we put this into motion the next couple of days, you can see that it's pretty much blue lines. All those lighter kind of lines kind of miss us. And then you can see right there where some of the rain showers are going to reach us. That's going to be into next week, Monday, in which we'll see some of that approaching the Hawaiian Islands and into Tuesday. So real quickly, mostly sunny skies, a few windward to Mauka showers, east-northeasterly winds are 5 to 15 miles per hour. 7-day forecast looking really good as far as weather goes for most of the state all throughout the week. Daytime high today is going to be about 89, 90 degrees depending on where you are. Always get the latest on air, online, on your mobile device and at hawaiinewsnow.com.
Let's see what the internet is buzzing about right now. There's another one of those stories about a big auction. Here's some more history that was just made. This 102 carat diamond sold for, any guesses?
multi-millions.
Multi for sure. 15.7 million bucks. This it's called the Flawless Diamond. No surprise there, it's gorgeous. Discovered in Canada, and it's ranked as one of the top most clear diamonds in the world. It's because of all its 4 C's: cut, color, clarity, and carat weight. I didn't know there was something called the 4 C's.
Oh yeah, John, come on.
I know, I'm not a big diamond shopper. Not at all. And it has the D color grading, which is just the highest you can get. It's sold with no reserve, meaning it could have sold for any amount, but it went for that $15.7 million.
Found in Canada?
Yeah, I didn't know.
That's weird, right?
Discovered in Ontario, Canada.
Huh.
Yeah, you never think of them as diamond producers, but I guess they got them.
Learn something new here on This Is Now. Yep. So if you need to furnish your home, this is kind of cool. New York's unofficial palace, the Waldorf Astoria, is auctioning off 80,000 pieces of fine furniture and other items ahead of a major renovation. Now, classic 19th century French furniture and furnishings include chandeliers, a Steinway grand piano, and more. Online bidding started Saturday, and a 2-week live auction is scheduled to start October 17th.
Whoa. Cool looking stuff there for sure.
And today is National Noodle Day, you guys. So Kraft is running a campaign called #Nudes, NOODS promotion. And to enjoy nudes, just go to nudes.com or tweet at Kraft Mac and Cheese and use the hashtags Send Nudes and Giveaway. And the first 7,000 people to enter will get a free box of mac and cheese.
Very, very, very clever there. I'm going to go on to some good news now, Ashley. It was one of my favorite cartoon characters, the Tasmanian Devil. But we're not talking cartoons here. We're talking the real thing because they're making a big comeback, and it's really good news down under. Here's Ian Lee with more.
It's a homecoming a long time in the making, with a little star power.
We've laid some traps to catch the devils, and then we're going to release them out into the wild.
Actor Chris Hemsworth is lending a hand, releasing the famously feisty Tasmanian devil back onto mainland Australia last month. Conservationists have reintroduced 26 devils north of Sydney over the last 4 months. The mammals are known for their ferocious growl and red glowing ears when angry. But despite their tough little attitudes, the marsupial's population is in crisis. Over the past few decades, cancer has wiped out up to 91% in Tasmania. Conservationists hope this historic reintroduction will boost their population.
Today marks the first time in 3,000 years or thereabouts that the Tasmanian devil has roamed mainland forests. And as an apex predator, it's critically important.
Scientists plan to release 40 more Tasmanian devils in the coming years. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Had no clue they were so vicious
I
there,
didn't know
right?
they ate meat, but I guess that makes sense because he wanted to eat the Roadrunner. So.
Oh yeah, Taz was always pretty hungry. You're right. And
wow,
I know.
I learned so much from that story.
They are still cute. I'll still give them a cute rating.
Yeah, if you haven't seen them in person, they're actually really cute. At the
and good that they're making a comeback. I didn't realize they were in that bad of shape as a population.
Yeah, who knew they were susceptible to cancer too? But I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, any mammal there. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this Tuesday. Don't know of any official press releases or press conferences coming up in this afternoon, but if any come our way, if we get word of any of those, we'll let you know in an H&N push alert. So sign up for our app right now. Download it anywhere you can find apps. You can also listen to our podcast anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Have a great afternoon, guys.
Aloha.